As a parent, how do you feel about teachers normalizing heterosexuality in your child's classrooms?
I think it's something that we should move forward from because our society is like rapidly changing. But I feel like when heteronormativity is like normalized in schools, it kind of gives like a group of certain people more power than others. So it shuts down those people that aren't heterosexual, and it like keeps them in a bubble and they're scared, to fully express themselves just because people are so quick to judge.
We live in a world dictated by heteronormativity. Whether we realize it or not, it surrounds us daily. We live in a heteronormative society where anything or anyone who deviates from that narrative is looked at as an outsider. What is heteronormativity, you ask? It's the constant promotion of heterosexuality as the normal and preferred sexuality. It's those gendered bathrooms exclusively labeled male and female. It's your teacher exclaiming, "All right, boys and girls." It's everything gendered within society. Heteronormativity infiltrates and defines society and education, thus limiting self expression and authenticity, leaving no room for anyone who even slightly deviates from society's normative path.
For me, like unconsciously, I teach my children like how to be a boy and how to be a girl. Like, if my little boy like likes a girl or like has a crush on someone without me knowing, it's like, oh, like maybe you like a girl, or like the sister will do it too. So it's just like these ideas that we engrave into people.
This exclusively male female dichotomy is incredibly violent towards those bodies who do not fall within this binary, whether the individual be gay, trans, or any form of queer which deviates from the heteronormative. There is often limited to no forms of acknowledging that way of being within curriculum. For example, within the state of California, the sex ed which is taught is exclusively heterosexual, with a major emphasis upon abstinence, meaning those who do not participate in heterosexual sex are left uneducated, placing them at higher risk of developing sexually transmitted diseases and participating in unsafe sex. We must realize that not all of society is heterosexual, nor do they fall under the heterosexual spectrum, and instead of ignoring their presence, it would serve society better to recognize its differences and cater to all instead of merely a select few.
Another solution would involve taking promotional steps to create an inclusive educational environment. This series of steps would enforce the idea of equal representation, especially for those who do not conform to the dominant heteronormative narrative. Many students often find themselves in a negative and stagnant school climate that refuses to provide any kind of support for those who do not find themselves locked in an exclusive heteronormative bubble. These negative spaces force students who do not conform to question their sense of belonging, which can reflect on their academic performance. Diverse representation would establish the possibility of beneficial change in policy, one that would break free from the dominant heteronormative narrative. LGBTQ representatives would be able to create positive and connecting relationships with their students. School counselors should also seek to represent the LGBTQ community through special training that would allow them to be able to meet the needs of each and every one of their students.
So we asked the director of the LGBTQ Resource Center, Nancy Tubbs, how she believed that the LGBTQ Resource Center was able to help students combat heteronormativity in their day-to-day lives.
If students have the courage to walk in, they will find other students as well as staff who can support them. But the policies I talked about that take forever to pass, they make a real difference for students. So we have on our campus a lot of this around trans issues because we live in this binary world and a lot of the barriers are trans specific. So gender inclusive housing, trans inclusive healthcare, preferred names on class rosters and ID cards. All of those things are things that it took a long time to get, but now are there to help students on campus.
The goal of this video wasn't to make everyone gay or to spread our gay narrative. Instead, it was to establish conversation surrounding the dominant heteronormative gender binary, which is perpetuated throughout all of society, but specifically education. It was to create a space for those otherwise marginalized bodies, to create space for self-expression free from violence, to create a space for all types of people to love themselves and to love each other. Frankly, it's to create a space to love.